I also particularly enjoyed the joke Brock makes about Sasquatch.
What are you, shy? Sasquatch doesn't have anything you haven't seen before?
Sasquatch is something I haven't seen before.
Flynn's Arcade.
Hi, this is Flynn's Arcade, and this is my video essay about Season 1, Episode 7 of the Venture Bros. Home Insecurity, with special reference to this book. And please, before I start, could you do me a favour and like the video and subscribe to the channel, because it really helps. And now, on with the video. In this video, I'm going to give a brief synopsis. I'm going to talk about any themes that I've noticed. I'm going to talk about any jokes that I particularly enjoyed. I'm going to talk about the style of the episode, and finally, I'm going to rate the episode out of 10. In this episode, Brock leaves the Ventures alone for one night, and all hell breaks loose because he can't cope without him.
What the hell are you smiling about?
Brock said I'm the man of the house while he's gone.
Oh, so you think you're a big man now, huh?
No. Sir?
Think you can take on your old dad, huh? I knew this day would come. Go on, big man. Take your best shot.
When Brock's away on taking some much-needed R&R, unfortunately he runs into a cryptid and has to get into a whole adventure involving the cryptid and the $6 million man.
You better get out of here, Samson. This might get ugly and you're still with the agency.
Now, wait a minute. I have a better idea. Come here. This is your bionic one, right?
Baron Ünderbheit ends up having a queasy alliance with the monarch.
You have to give me this one. I've loathed Venture ever since college.
Now, who hasn't, Underpants? What makes your case so special?
And we learn a bit about the humanity of H.E.L.P.eR, the family robot. The theme of this episode is incredibly subversive. It opens with our learning about Unterland and the way Baron Ünderbheit and his cabinet run the country, and it's all incredibly dark. The USA is not presented particularly well either, because when we meet the $6 million man, we learn that he's under contract to just work for the army for free, and because he's a cyborg of sorts, the guess is that he's going to be doing this for hundreds and hundreds of years. So,
But the army saved me. They spent $6 million to give me all new bionic parts. Made me stronger, better, faster than I was. Then you know what they did? They put me to work. They expected me to pay it all back. Do you have any idea how long $6 million takes to pay off on a government salary?
it's really, it's very anti-authoritarian in tone. And especially when Brock winds up helping out the $6 million man and Sasquatch escape, he disobeys orders, basically. He goes against the army for the greater good. So the tone of the episode is really very thought-provoking. It's definitely not one of the more popular episodes, but there is quite a lot going on if you look into it. As always, failure is the dominant theme in this episode. As soon as Brock goes on his holidays, all hell breaks loose almost immediately in the Venture compound. They really can't cope without him. I mean, it manifests itself in him having quite a funny argument, but then it gets a lot darker and a lot more dangerous as the episode goes on. There's some quite funny failure in when the monarch's trying to reveal his dastardly plan to Baron Ünderbheit, and he has IT problems, which is very funny.
Dr. Venture's life! Oh, that's my resume. Hold on. Damn it! Oh, hang on a second. No, let me just reboot this.
One massive theme of failure is the failure of humanity as a species, which is brought to light in this episode. When we learn about the horrors of Unterland, and we learn about the horrors of the $6 million man, and they're shown in contrast to the humanity of the Sasquatch, who's very much a lover and not a fighter.
And that's when I met my little Sasburger here. Well, Cupid must have been using bionic arrows that day, because I took one look in those big blue eyes and I knew I couldn't go through with my mission, or any mission ever again.
And the humanity of H.E.L.P.eR is a robot, but is kinder than anyone else we've seen in the Venture Brothers. We really start to think about, are we a failure as a species? Which is a really dark theme, but it's the Venture Brothers, it will go there. As for character development, we learn about Hank's desire to be the man of the house, which starts a bit of a problem between him and his dad, especially in this episode.
Hank, what are you doing? Knock it off! Freudian phase of yours has gone too far, mister. You're grounded. What the hell was that?
That will go on, like Hank's rebellious nature and, and all the problems that could cause in the family. We also learn just how sensitive Dean is.
No! Stop it, you two! This family's tearing apart!
We've had evidence of it before, but we really see it in this episode. We learn just how vulnerable the Ventures are, and that foreshadows what we'll learn later on when we get into season 2 and we learn about the boys being clones. We can see just how problematic their lives are and how lethal they are, because even though they've encountered danger before, this is the first time I've actually seen them in genuine mortal peril.
Destroy intruders! Destroy intruders!
I live here! Leave me alone! There's something out there, and it's made of metal, and it has Dad's face, and it wants to beat me up!
And we really start to think, like, if Brock wasn't there, what could happen? And he's not always there because he's very busy, and and also he has shown incompetence previously when he disappeared with the sex worker and pilot. So he's not perfect at this point, not by a long shot. We also get an interesting window into Brock's life outside of the Venture compound. When he meets the foot soldiers, when he's attempting to go on his trip into the wilderness.
Wait, sir, can I have your autograph?
Who's that?
Brock f***ing Sampson.
They fight over a cigarette, but he's obviously a real celebrity in the army, which I'd never noticed before. And so, yeah, he really is a big deal, and it's evidence of why everyone loves Brock. This episode shows that in universe he's deeply loved. He's not really respected by Dr. Venture, but in his actual job, he's a legend, basically. And regarding Brock, we also learn that in this episode that he will disobey orders, direct orders in fact. He goes into his campsite area, and he wasn't allowed to, but he goes anyway. He completely goes off the grid when he rescues the Sasquatch and the $6 million man, which shows that there's quite a lot of there's quite a moral issue going on with Brock. He doesn't just follow orders. He's not just a tough, well-trained professional soldier. He's also a deeply ethical person, and this is the first time this has really shone through. It's a massive character development, and also as the genuinely very subversive nature of the Venture Bros, which I don't think we've seen just how subversive it is up until this episode, and it's quite exciting to see it start to come out. We learn about Baron Ünderbheit and how he rules Unterland with an iron fist. I think he genuinely has an iron fist. He's disgusting, and his cabinet are just as bad as he is. They all get he meets an unfortunate end at the start of the episode, but I'm not that bothered. Just when they talk about all the things that they've done to in their country, yeah, it's not a problem. I'm quite happy to see the back of them. In this episode, we really start to see the relationship problems between the monarch and Dr. Girlfriend start to manifest themselves quite graphically. The scene where the monarch tells off Dr. Girlfriend for buying the wrong type of coke in the shop.
What is this, diet? Why did you get diet?
I didn't.
Taste this then.
Okay, I might have grabbed the wrong bottle at the supermarket.
How do you do that? How can you not tell the difference? God, it's like having my dad do the shopping.
It's actually quite difficult to watch, and you can see she's really going to start getting quite angry with him quite soon, because he's just so rude and unappreciative. In this season, he doesn't really appreciate it that much, but it's never been depicted that graphically, but it's really shown in this episode. And we also learn quite a bit about H.E.L.P.eR, who's often a forgotten member of the Venture family, him not being human and all. I mean, is he a him or her? I don't know. But H.E.L.P.eR's a robot. But we learn that H.E.L.P.eR's got a lot of actual humanity. Prior to this, I always saw him as an actual robot, and so therefore didn't really care. But now I actually see H.E.L.P.eR as a genuinely caring figure. I like the way that he takes Dr. Venture to bed. I think it's quite sweet. We saw a bit actually in a few episodes back when he gave Brock the rabbit's foot when he was going off to do his exam, but in this episode it's really brought out that he's like that, and also when he goes off with his bundle and stick because he's heartbroken because he thinks he's being replaced. Yeah, he does have an actual personality and wants and needs, and it's really quite nice to see, and I'm going to have a lot more respect for H.E.L.P.eR in future now I know that he's like that. The henchmen are given quite a lot of character development in this episode, especially the scene where the Monarch's henchmen and the Unterland soldiers get together and have a drink and they talk about their lives before getting their respective jobs.
When I met the Monarch, I was hooked on crack cocaine. I get in all kinds of trouble. Monarch turned my life around. How about you? Why'd you join up?
You guys kidnapped me when I was 15.
But prior to this, I mean, yeah, we saw a little bit of it in Home Insecurity, to be honest, because we saw the Henchmen 21, Henchmen 24, and they've really started to become shine-out characters. But this is the first episode where the henchmen en masse are actually dealt with as human beings. What I particularly liked was learning about the Unterland soldiers and their backstory, because whilst Unterland is a deeply evil country, it's an axis of evil type of country, but we learn more about the ordinary citizens and they're actually victims in the whole situation. So it's not like the whole of Unterland's horrible, it's just unfortunately the people who are running it are horrible. As for the jokes of this episode, it's not one of the funnier episodes that I've seen, but there are some pretty good jokes in there. I particularly enjoyed the scene where the Unterland soldiers and the henchmen both have the same bizarre plot to attack Dr. Venture with a scorpion and a spider, and it's just so absurd that they both showed up to do that on the same night, which I find quite funny, and it just shows how incompetent everyone is, and also how coincidental a lot of the actions in the Venture universe are. I also particularly enjoyed the joke about that Brock makes about Sasquatch.
What are you, shy? Sasquatch doesn't have anything you haven't seen before.
Sasquatch is something I haven't seen before.
That joke has just lived in my head rent-free over the years because I just find it really funny, and I like the way the Sasquatch looks when he's all shaved off. He just looks really funny. As the style of this episode, it's incredibly claustrophobic in tone, at least because a lot of the activity in the Venture compound takes place within the panic room. And a lot of activity takes place in the Monarch's cocoon, and it's night-long negotiations between the Monarch and Baron Ünderbheit, and so that adds to the general atmosphere of claustrophobia. Even Brock's trip to the wilderness, which should be the antithesis of a claustrophobic situation, ends up with him getting dragged into some drama, and so that means that there's no escape. There's no escape in the Ventureverse. The only way that the claustrophobic atmosphere is ever alleviated in any sort of way is when the Unterland soldiers and the henchmen get together and they decide to trash the compound, and that element of freedom just sort of really alleviates some of the sort of darker tone of it. So lastly, I'm going to give this episode a 7 out of 10. There's a lot of things I like in this episode, and the reason why the episode score is relatively low is that I really don't like Baron Ünderbheit. I don't think anyone does. It's a funny one because he's supposed to be evil. He's what's known on TV tropes as a hate sink. He's an irredeemable character, and obviously, you're not supposed to like him. He's got a lot of plus points to him. He's incredibly well written, and he's incredibly well designed. There's quite a lot of information in the book, which I'll show up now, about the design aspect of him. I mean, Jackson Public really wanted to make his own Marvel villain, and he wanted him to be a sort of Doctor Doom type character, and he's really managed to pull it off. But the problem with him is he's just so evil that, unlike the other characters in the Ventureverse, where the heroes all have a dark side and the villains all have a very positive side, he doesn't have any. He's just evil. He's just pure evil. And so, because of him, it really lowers the tone of the episode. When I actually came to read the book before watching this episode, I was quite surprised to see all the information about Baron Ünderbheit, because I'd completely forgotten he was in this episode. I think that because I dislike him so much, I just mentally block anything to do with him out of my memories of the Venture Brothers. Yeah, so it's just I don't like him. Interesting fact is I learned that at this point, there was Doc Hammer and Jackson Public were still trying to do a sort of villain of the week and to have more of a sort of a character arc within the episode, so it was less episodic and it was more you could watch them out of sequence and things like that. And so what they were trying to do is bring in different interesting characters and see how they went on. And it does hang together remarkably well as an episode in and of itself. It's incredibly well structured. So what Jackson Public was trying to do with Baron Ünderbheit was just to have a really hateful, evil character, just pure evil. And so, and a lot of you know, I mean, we got a bit of an idea of what he's like in this episode based on his cabinet's description of all the atrocities he committed in Unterland. So that's just a window into sort of things that Baron Ünderbheit was capable of. But then what happens is over time, because people like him and Doc didn't like writing him, the fans didn't like watching him, he gradually got dialed down, but some of the more evil, sadistic parts of the Venture Brothers still remained and were still like addressed by different characters. That's why we end up with this, like, I can't even remember, it's a lot later on, I think it's in season 3 or season 4, it might even be a bit later, but that awful sequence when the monarch chases a sex worker through a maze, and it's really horrible. That was originally supposed to be done by Baron Ünderbheit. So yeah, so everything horrible in the Venture Bros is usually was associated with him. It's just that he gradually started getting written out. And a bit of a meta joke about him is that he whenever, even though he was supposed to be this really evil character, whenever he was written by, especially by Jackson Public, he ended up looking more foolish rather than evil, so which made him less scary than, you know, he was actually supposed to be. What I find really funny about that is because the show is all about failure, and the fact that the creators failed to produce a genuinely evil character and ended up producing quite a funny and like silly character, and instead, really, I just find that really meta. So yeah, that was quite interesting. But anyway, that's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Like I say, it's not a particular favourite of mine because of reasons discussed at length. But let me know what you think. Maybe some people like Baron Ünderbheit. I don't know why you would do, but maybe you do. And so I'll see you in the next video. Oh yeah, before I go, please make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel because it really, really does help. So see you in the next one.